Hi everyone, I'm Robert Moody. I'm Music Director of the Portland Symphony Orchestra. Welcome to Online Insights. We are talking about one of our concerts in the Beethoven cycle that is a big event of our 90th anniversary season. Actually, there are a lot of 90th anniversary or anniversary things to talk about in this specific concert. In February of 2015, we will be performing the great Beethoven Third Symphony. It's also known as the Eroica Symphony, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. We're also featuring a piece which almost to the day will be celebrating not its 90th, but its 91st anniversary. And beyond that, in addition to our 90th anniversary and the 91st anniversary of another piece of music, you'll get to see a piece of music being born. To celebrate the Portland Symphony Orchestra's 90th anniversary, we also wanted to celebrate new music. In fact, we wanted to be a part of the creation of new music. So we announced back in the spring of 2014 a Young Composers competition. We sent out the word to young American composers and have asked them to submit compositions. We will choose one of the composers and commission him or her to write a fanfare work, the opening work on this concert in February of 2015. As we make this recording, the process is nearing its final stage. We are down to just a few composers who are the final candidates, and it's extremely exciting to look at this new music being written and to think about which one of these composers will soon have their work debuted by the Portland Symphony Orchestra. Come in February of 2015 to find out. So this is the 90th anniversary of the Portland Symphony Orchestra. We've been reminding you of that quite a lot this year, and we're very proud of that. It's actually the 91st anniversary of one of the most famous pieces of American music ever written. So here's the story. It was back in 1923, the spring of 1923, when a young composer named George Gershwin was walking down the street. He ran into a band leader, Paul Whiteman. Paul Whiteman told George Gershwin that coming up in the next season, he was going to put on a huge concert at Symphony Hall in New York, and for the first time, he was going to bring jazz into the concert hall. He asked George Gershwin if he, George, would write a jazz piano concerto for this concert. George said to Paul Whiteman, "Sure, I'll be happy to," and promptly forgot about the entire conversation. Fast forward now to January of 1924. George Gershwin and his brother Ira were in a billiard hall in New York City. George was shooting pool, Ira was reading the New York Times. Ira said to George, "Hey, George, there's something in the paper you should read. It says here that Paul Whiteman is going to present a huge concert at Symphony Hall in 6 weeks, and they're premiering your jazz piano concerto." That's when George remembered the conversation from the prior spring. He ran to a telephone, he called Paul Whiteman, he told him that there was just no way he could write a jazz concerto in that short amount of time. After much pressure from Whiteman, George Gershwin finally said, "Well, I don't think I can write a long concerto, but I can probably write a Rhapsody for you." And that's how Rhapsody in Blue was born. You get to hear Rhapsody in Blue 91 years nearly to the date of its first performance with an incredible Gershwin interpreter, Kevin Cole, and your Portland Symphony Orchestra. And so we finished this concert in February, both on Sunday and Tuesday, with another great symphony of Beethoven, back to our 9 Beethoven symphonies over the course of 3 years. We're having 9 Beethoven symphonies to celebrate the 90th anniversary of the Portland Symphony. This time you'll hear Beethoven's Third Symphony. It is another one of the symphonies that has a nickname. The nickname for this one is the Eroica Symphony, a salute to heroes. Also has an interesting backstory. Beethoven was enamored in the very beginning of the 19th century with a leader who quickly rose to power. This leader's name was Napoleon Bonaparte. Beethoven thought he would be the great bringer of ultimate democracy to the European continent, sort of get away from the system of kings and move in a new era. And so he began to write this symphony in his honor. As he was finishing the symphony, Napoleon simultaneously declared himself emperor. Beethoven was so angry at this that Napoleon, it turns out, was just another despot wanting to be ruler, that he, Beethoven, took the dedication page, which he had dedicated to Napoleon, ripped it out of the score, and no more Napoleon Bonaparte. but the idea of a symphony written in honor of heroes was still there. So he named it instead to the benefactor, the person who helped fund the writing of the symphony. But the piece, more importantly, has become the great symbol of homage to real heroes, to the great and true heroes, and we perform it in that way as well. Some of Beethoven's most beloved, most powerful music. One aspect of the history of the Beethoven Eroica Symphony that you might find very poignant and interesting will take us back now to November of 1963. It was November 22nd of 1963 when the Boston Symphony was performing a coffee concert, a Friday afternoon concert under the baton of Erich Leinsdorf. Leinsdorf learned backstage that President John F. Kennedy had been shot and killed in Dallas. Remember, this is in a day and age before the internet, before cell phones, so no one in the audience awaiting the concert start knew what had happened. Leinsdorf came onto stage, announced to the audience what had happened, and then said to them, even though they weren't planning to play it that day, he said, "I have asked our librarian to gather the music for Beethoven's Eroica Symphony, and we are now going to play for you the slow movement, which is known as the Funeral March from Beethoven Eroica Symphony in honor of President Kennedy." If you're more interested in this, you can Google that story and you can find the audio clip on YouTube. Very powerful. The entire work is powerful. It isn't all about Funeral March, it's also about grandeur and glory and the celebration of heroes. It's a great mix of emotion. Obviously, you can tell this is one of my very favorite symphonies, and I can't wait to see you at the concert.